Yeah, so let's move on. So we now have the pleasure to call on stage the senior manager at Accenture Strategy. He's involved within the talent department of Accenture. I say it the French way, right? Designed on change management programs. He's very passionate about having people work together and getting things done. He's here today to reveal key findings of the latest Accenture research and employee experience based on France and Germany. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Julien Fanon.
Good morning, everyone. 2017. What are the latest trends in terms of employee experience? What are the newest expectations? What are the expectations of the young graduates? My name is Julien, I'm part of Accenture Strategy, and I want to share the outcomes of two studies that shed an interesting light on those questions. The first study is a study we run every year. We go and meet the young graduates, and we ask them, what do you expect from your professional life? What kind of employee experience do you want? And we ask the same question to the people who've been in the active life for a couple of years, and we ask, what's up? How do you like it? So the outcomes of this study will be very interesting if you want to attract and retain young graduates. The second study I want to share is a study we commissioned this year with Talentsoft, and we looked at employee experience in general. France and Germany, public sector and private sector, public versus private. We have a session later today at 2:45 that will be zooming on this question, the differences in terms of employee experience, private and public. I invite you to come, and I will share some of the outcomes this morning. So if we start with the first study on graduates, 25%. 25% of young graduates want to work for a large company. And that's an interesting figure for two reasons. The first one is it doesn't seem like a lot, but it's actually the number one category. Okay? 25% want to work for a large company, then 24% for a mid-size, then small size, entrepreneurs, government, and so on and so forth. So large companies are attractive to young graduates. And it's very interesting because we asked the same question over the past 5 years, and the trend was declining. Basically, people were not attracted any longer by a large company, and now it bounces back. Last year, it was 14%. Now we're up at 25%. So it seems that large companies are attractive again to young graduates. Why that? Maybe large companies have changed the way they communicate. Maybe they look like more agile, more like startup culture. But that's an interesting figure, 25%. So who are they, this class of 2017? Well, they think it's going to be complicated to find a job. 49%. They first look at the availability of job before choosing what kind of degree they wanted to pursue. That's pragmatic. And they are ready to move to another region or another city to find a job. This is super pragmatic. What do they expect? What kind of employee experience they want? First and foremost, they want an interesting and challenging work. This is the number one concern. Give me something interesting to do. And I can club together number 3 and number 8, and the top category is really the content of work. They want interesting content. Number 2 has to do with the environment. We heard from Microsoft, this is a key concern also. Give me an innovative work environment. Let me choose my hours. I want a flexible work environment, flexible hours. Number 3 has to do with the skills. Help me develop the right skills. You remember 49% of them think it's going to be hard to find the right job. They want to be able to develop their skills. Key concern. So number 1 is the content of work. Who? 72% of them think they are underemployed. When you ask them, they say, I think the kind of job I'm doing right now, I don't really need my degree. Thank you for that. 72%. So that's a key concern, right? How do you make sure that you keep them engaged? They want interesting content, but 72% of them sort of feel bored. So this is an internal question, I believe. You will see in the study that we published, we offer some solutions. I can share some of them with you here. One is, of course, easy to say, but connect the dots, show the larger picture, why they're working on that. The second one might be, if you have a foundation, corporate social responsibility foundation, maybe you can have them work on the side for a non-profit or an NGO. More and more companies are doing that. And they find another meaning to their work. Or maybe you can share all the activities you have, all the projects you have internally. You can share that on the platform, and you can help people raise their hand and say, oh, I'd be interested to work on this project. We see more and more of that also. This is what we call liquid workforce, meaning that your workforce might be staffed on a project for 80% of the time, but 20% they can contribute to something else that is meaningful for the company. But people can change and have agility in the way they are assigned tasks or activities. So this is for the young graduates. If I move to the employee experience study, maybe let's start with a word of definition. What we mean by employee experience is basically the sum of perceptions between the employee and its organization. We're talking about workplace, we're talking about tool, we're talking about culture. And the good news is employee experience is critical. So there's a display bug, sorry. This should be a high chart. 93% of the employees consider employee experience to be critical to be for employee engagement. So employee experience is critical, and most of the employees are pretty satisfied with their employee experience. So this is good news. Another good news is most of the employees think employee experience is treated as a priority by their management. This is seen as a priority or perceived as a priority for the management. So that's another good news. So what are the bad news? Let's look at the roadblocks. What are the roadblocks between your employee experience and a delightful employee experience? The first one is the lack of support and consideration from the top management. So same old story, right? Give me more coaching, give me more interaction with my management, give me more guidance. And here the split between private sector and public sector is interesting. We dig into that this afternoon. Number two is interesting. I think it's a bit newer. I think this is something new. This is I'd say people want more cohesion and more transparency between teams. And that's interesting because a couple of years ago, we went to visit a bunch of startups in Paris, and we wanted to understand how they were organizing themselves internally. And what really struck us the most is the importance of team. And I think in most of the large companies, we see this notion of team sort of faded away. This importance of team is critical in the startups. And they have small team, very, very transparent, with a lot of cohesion. You know what Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon, says? Huh? He says, if you cannot feed your team with 2 pizzas, then your team is too large. And I think that's a good rule of thumb. So try to have small team, a lot of cohesion, a lot of transparency. People want that. So in terms of expectations, what employees expect the most? I have a top 4 for you, and this is my last slide. Number 4 has everything to do with what Laura said earlier. Give me a tailored employee experience. I'm 35, I live in Paris, I have 1 kid. Should I get the same benefit and the same work experience than someone who's 25 or someone who's 50 with 3 kids? This is what we called the workforce of 1. Give me a tailored employee experience. Number 3 is something we slightly mentioned earlier, which is the ability to work internally in your own company, to work on different topics, different tasks, different activities, to move from one project team in the morning to another in the afternoon, to have some agility in the workforce. People are calling for that. But not only internally. I think more and more people are seeing that the future of the workforce is also how you connect to the external world. And this is what we call the external liquid workforce. So how can you get this kind of agility where you interact more easily with people from the outside? And I clubbed number 2 and number 1 into the same category, which is everything related to the skills. Remember what we said earlier? People are very aware that they need to keep developing their skills over and over. And they're expecting 2 things from your employers, from their employers. And the first one is, help me identify what kind of skills do I need? What are the jobs that I will need tomorrow? How can I maintain my employability? And number 2 is, help me develop those skills. Give me the mean. Maybe it's internal, maybe it's external, but help me develop those skills and be strong on those skills and guarantee my employability. So 3 things I want you to take away. The first one is, when you look at young graduates, they are committed, they are pragmatic, give them some interesting content. Think about what we mentioned, working with NGOs maybe on the side, having this kind of internal liquid workforce where people can staff themselves on a project that matters to them. This will pay off. The second is, keep treating employee experience as a very high priority and make sure that the management is dedicating the time that is required for that. And think about this notion of team. I think it's critical. And the last point is, when you design the employee experience, next time you think about it, try really to make sure to have it customized for your employees. Try to identify what are the different archetypes of employees and how can you map the priorities for those employees and design the customized employee experience, as you mentioned. Try to make sure that you help them identify the hot skills and you give them the means to develop themselves on those skills. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Julien. Thank you very much. Thank you.